Now, who of you doesn't just play an instrument, but studied playing an instrument at the university? I see just a few left now. Yeah, like me, not everybody is that skilled. I don't want to go too deep into my story, but it deviated from playing the instrument to sound engineering, audio, and acoustics at some point, simply because my talent was more in the engineering part than in the playing the guitar part. However, I had one amazing experience back then. Practicing the guitar, especially acoustic guitar, trying to solo. There was this practice room in my student dorm back then, and it had a really nice resonating acoustic response, strong acoustics, which was great to play the guitar and get the feedback from the space. It simply was fun practicing in there until I started practicing chords, etc., where the acoustics was not that pleasant and not that supporting anymore. This was an early experience for myself, where I understood the importance of room acoustics to playing an instrument, and not only playing an instrument, but also practicing. Enough of my personal story. Don't worry, I'm not going to go too deep into that, but I want to welcome everybody. Thanks so much for showing up. And maybe you can also tell me where you're from, where you're logged in from. I feel like we have quite a global audience, especially people from Europe, but I do see also some overseas. We have Poland, Sweden, Finland, France, Australia, Melbourne in Australia, great, Hungary, Sweden again. Wow, really, the Nordics are here, London as well, great, UK, Germany. Really, guys, thanks so much for joining in. It is really such a pleasure. It's, I think, the 15th webinar we are doing. Every time so many people show up, we are now 50 people. Hong Kong even, Faroe Islands. I just know in German, Faroe Islands. Great, good to see you, and thanks for showing up. So today we are presenting one of our projects that we recently finished a few months ago already at the Hochschule der Künste in Bremen, the University of Arts in Bremen. And this project inspired us to do this webinar simply because it's the third in the line of installations we did, not only in a performing venue, but also in an educational setting. As I touched just before, there's a difference to when you perform music and when you practice music. And we want to touch that topic today. But again, thanks so much for showing up. And I'm not alone, and I would like to introduce quickly my colleagues who are here. First of all, Thorsten Rode, my partner in crime, business partner, taking care of business development, and he is gonna show us and tell us about the project, introduce us to the project in a presentation. Then we have Kasper, who is a project engineer and acoustic consultant with Amadeus. He is gonna tell us more about the tuning process. They took very nice pictures during the tuning, and he will guide us through the process and give us an insight here. And thanks so much. Our special guest is Martin Dieckhoff. He is a sound engineer. He studied Tonmeister in Germany. He's a sound engineer, worked in the theater in Bremen, and since a few years is a project lead at the University of Arts in Bremen. So he is the user. He's the one also we got to know, and in the process convinced him that Amadeus is a good solution. And I hope he's still happy. You have the floor later to tell us if you're still happy. Feel free, be honest. And we're going to do, at the end, we're going to do an interview. So I'm going to stop in a second. Don't worry. Thorsten will present us the project, and Kasper will then guide us through the tuning process. And after that, we will have an interview setting where Thorsten and myself, we will interview Kasper and Martin about the project and about the tuning. And then also feel free to ask questions in the chat, and we open it, so to say, up to a Q&A session. So are we ready? Hands up. Are you guys ready?
Yes, we are.
Don't worry, videos can still be turned on. It makes it more lively if you already have it, but I would like to encourage more to turn on their videos. Thanks a lot. Great. Okay, so let me introduce to you my business partner since more than 12 years, I think now, Thorsten Rode.
A long time. Oh, thank you. Yeah, hello from my side also, and thank you for joining us. It's really a pleasure to do this. Yes, Fabio did already tell you what we are going to do today. We have an overview, we talk about the components, and we will have an interview together with Martin in Bremen. We are in Vienna now. Everybody, all others are in Vienna. Martin is located in Bremen, so we are international actually from our side also, not only you in the audience. So yeah, in the end, 2 years ago, we met Martin at the Tonmeistertagung. It's a sound engineering congress located in Düsseldorf. It's 2 years ago, and we talked about immersive audio and active acoustics in general. And a month later, Martin remembered us. He remembered us when he started the We Dig It project at the University of Arts in Bremen. And he visited us then in Vienna and got to know our system better, and he studied other systems as well. And yes, and here we are at the University of Music and Arts. Could you show us a picture, Kasper, from this room? The location it's called the Dechanatsstraße, is located in the center of the city of Bremen, in the immediate vicinity of the Glocke. The Glocke is a famous concert hall in the northern part of Germany. And this room, this house, is now the home to the Department of Music. It's an old house. In the early 19th, the Department of Music moved to Bremen's historic city center. And the three-story building on Dechanatsstraße was built between 1872 and 1875 in a it's a historicizing style. It's very old, and it has been a listed building since 1984. Oh shit, listed means protected. In listed rooms, it's always a challenge to make changes to the room acoustic itself. It's simply not allowed to interfere with the architecture. So active acoustics with fixtures that are mobile or easy to remove are therefore the only way to create variable acoustics. Maybe, Kasper, you can show us the room, how it looks before we started the project. This is a picture before we started, and you see there are already loudspeakers installed, some on the ceiling, some on the sidewalls, but not enough for active acoustics. So what are we doing? What could we do in this room? And this is, Kasper will show us how we adapt to the given room and how we adapt to the architecture. And I think we should not talk about too much about the historic dimension, because it's, as I said, it's a protected room, it's a listed room. So everything has to be mobile and has to be removable for the active acoustics. So Kasper, it's your stage to explain how you did it and how you did it in this specific room. Please.
Thank you very much, Thorsten. Yes, gladly. So let's just dive into a overview of our venue. So basically what we like to do is we create a digital representation or a digital model of our venue. This makes it very easy to simulate. In this case, we do this in ease. And you can see here there's two areas in the venue. We have our stage area right here and the audience area back there. And then you can see notches in the sides that represent the windows, basically. And as Thorsten already mentioned, there was already an old Altbestand, you would call it in German. So there were speakers already placed in the venue, which are basically the ring that you see on the lower side. Sorry, this is the wrong view. So all the speakers down here, which are 8-inch speakers, were already placed. And there is also 4 ceiling speakers on the top. And for active acoustics, this is not enough. So we really depend on a lot of ceiling speakers. And it is very favorable for us to place ceiling speakers over wall speakers because they're further away simply from the audience. And therefore, it's more of a homogeneous distance all over the audience area from the speakers. Because if you consider a wall speaker right here, you might have a person sitting there, which is 1.5 meters from the speaker. And here we have 15 meters of distance to the speaker on the very right. And then the ceiling, you don't have this effect. So the ceiling speakers more have this, how should you say, this function of creating a more homogeneous sound field throughout the majority of the audience area, which is, of course, very, very important for us. So what did we do? We had to basically help ourselves with a second ring of loudspeakers in the top area of the venue. So we were not allowed to place more ceiling speakers. As Thorsten already mentioned, it's a listed building and there were lots of restrictions. But in the end, we were given permission to add a second ring of 4-inch speakers on top of the window notches just below this little canopy that is goes basically a ring through the venue. And these speakers help us to basically pan the image towards the ceiling and compensate for the missing ceiling speaker in the venue. And what also happened, we added room microphones because for active acoustics, we need room microphones. We need microphones that pick up the sound in the room that is generated by the speakers and to be able to regenerate the existing sound in the venue. Additionally, we also placed shotgun microphones in the stage area right here to pick up the sound from the artists even more. Maybe just a short overview of the installation. How did we cable? Which components are in play here? So the central unit is the Amadeus core, which is our central processing unit. It's rack mounted in a 19-inch rack and connected to the mic preamps and the amplifiers over a Dante network. The mic preamps are then connected to the mics with a standard analog connection, as well as the loudspeakers to the amplifiers for the loudspeakers. And then you connect a PC or a Mac with the Amadeus control software to the core to be able to control, configure, and monitor the system. And an exception in this project was that we added a little control panel that works over OSC commands to the system, where you're able to change the presets and also mute the system. And this little control panel is situated in the room and is free to use for students or generally people that work in this venue to control the system at all times. Because usually you would have a dedicated sound engineer that basically controls the system, but in this case it is very open to control. let's go quickly over the components of the system. So as already mentioned, in the stage area, we used 6 shotgun mics to pick up the artist's sound very closely. We like to use the DPA 2017 shotgun mics for this case. Then we have boundary surface mics throughout the venue. Usually we like to suspend supercardioid mics from the ceiling, but in this case it was not possible because of the restrictions. So we opted for boundary surface mics that are placed directly on the wall with the help of a little plate, basically, where there's just a little slit where the boundary mic is put in, and you barely can see it, especially because the people from the integration team, the team of Ralf Ostermann, did a great job with hiding it, basically, and they even painted the base plates in white, so it is pretty much invisible, as you will see in a minute. Then for the loudspeakers, we added the short throw speakers on the upper ring here on the left. It's 4-inch speakers from D&B, and also 3 medium throw speakers, 5-inch speakers, the DB5S, that are situated behind the stage to further reinforce the sound on stage and make it better for the musicians. Then you can see the 8S, which were 16 of those speakers were already installed. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Martin, but I think it was 16. So we added a couple more in the lower ring. I think it was on the sides of the stage, and 3 subwoofers are also located underneath the stage. Okay, then let's talk about the process of the tuning. So what we first do is when we arrive at the venue is basically get the coordinates of all the speakers and all the mics once again, because I showed you our digital model already, but this is not accurate enough. We don't really know, are the room dimensions really accurate as we got them? Are the speakers located at this exact position? Mostly they're not. Mostly we deviate by meters, sometimes even, and this is way too inaccurate for our system. So we take the time and double check the coordinates of all speakers and microphones once more and feed them into our system in a venue file. And this is basically the base plate of the whole system of our geometric approach. All of the vectors are calculated from this venue file. Therefore, it's very important to make this very accurate. Then we start basically with the calibration process, where we tune all of our speakers flat. And in this case, we try to group speakers by ear. So we noise them, and we subjectively or by ear group them, and we tell if speaker groups are sounding the same. And if they are, we put them in a group, and we affect the whole group with EQs and tune them flat. And we do this by doing a special microphoning setup, where we basically put a couple of mics on axis and a couple of mics off axis of one of the speakers in the group. And then we take the average and just compute the inverse EQ and add them to the speakers. In this case, we actually applied the EQs to the amps. So we didn't even put any output EQs in the Amadeus system, but we did it on the amps because it makes sense to have the speakers tuned flat for any purpose in the room. And after we are done with the calibration process, on the next day, we usually start with the tuning. So we sit together down with the Tonmeister, in this case with Martin Dieckhoff, and we start to create the presets. This is always a little different. It depends on what the client wants and what the the implications of the venue are. And we don't only create these presets, we also evaluate them. And this means measuring them and also subjectively evaluate, is it what the client wants? And also, is the reverberation time pretty much there where we want it to be? And for this measuring, we again use a couple of microphones, measuring microphones, placed across the room in a diagonal way. So we basically have a meaningful value that expresses the room reverb. Is excited or tested basically with a dodecahedron. And this is because we need to have a spherically approximated sound source to really add all notches and all corners of the room, so we don't leave out any acoustically challenging areas that might make the system unstable if it's not excited. So it's very important to really excite the whole room. That's why we use this spherically sound source. And it's also placed directly on stage where the artist would be, or where the majority of the artists are later standing while they perform. As already mentioned, here you can see on the wall there is a lower ring or a lower group of speakers with the 8 inches, and above the windows, just below this canopy, we have the 4-inch speakers that basically compensate for the missing ceiling speakers and just give a very important panning to the top. And if you look very closely, you can already see the boundary surface mics between the windows that are mounted into the plate, but they're not very easy to spot. So as already mentioned, they did a great job hiding all of the speakers. Also, the speakers painted in white, so they are very subtle. Here is the stage area. We see the rigging of the stage area. And here I wanted to point out the shotgun mics that are pointing down from the rigging onto the stage. These are 6. I think we can see here one here in the back, 3, and another one on the right corner. I cannot see it because the Zoom window is blocking it for me. So these microphones are basically relevant for the stage area. And then you can see the back wall, again with boundary surface mics here that pick up the sound in the room. This is the control panel that is situated inside of the venue. And you can see the different presets that we created together with Martin Dieckhoff. We have also Tap Dance and The Dream is Collapsing, which are 2 effect presets that are reaching, I think, 11 seconds of RT60. So pretty much, how should I say, mostly not usable, but for some special purposes, we did some percussion instruments with this preset, and it sounded very, very interesting. And as already said, everybody can access this panel, and everybody can mute or unmute and change the presets to his liking. Here's an overview of the RT60 over frequency. It's displayed from 105 Hertz to 4K in octave bands. And you can see the lowest graph here shows system off, or also immersive, which means we have the system running, but only immersive sources can be heard. So it's the equivalent of system off. And then we basically gradually start to climb up the RT60 ladder with our voice lift preset, reflective, and so on and so on. Up here, you can see the 2 effect presets. I can display it on a bigger time axis as well. You can see this one reaches the 11 milliseconds. Right, I think this is kind of a good overview to see the range of different RT60 values over frequency. And yeah, I think that's about it for the tuning process. Do you have any questions? Maybe, or is it time for questions now, Fabio, or do we do it
I think, Caspar, thank you
Okay.
for these insights. And
okay, so questions afterwards. So we continue
yes,
with
I should say we will do this afterwards, because we forgot somebody to mention in the background. Our colleague Chechi is working, and she's collecting the questions in the background, and I think we will do it. We will do this afterwards. Thank you for these insights. Always interesting what happens. But
very welcome.
now, Martin, it's on you.
Welcome, Martin.
Hi, hello everybody from Bremen.
Hello from Bremen. So what was it actually? What inspires you for the university to pursue an active acoustic solution as part of your We Dig It project? Maybe you can explain what this project actually is.
Maybe it's smart to, as you said, to explain what this We Dig project called We Dig It actually is. So we started in 2021 already, and it's a temporary and third-party funded project of the university that aims to support artistic teaching and practicing with digital tools and technology. And it's not only about sound and music, although it plays a big role, but we do lots of other stuff as well. And yeah, during the project, we had the idea of equipping our concert hall with an active acoustic system to make it more flexible to use, especially for musical styles and genres which are really reliant on acoustic response from the room more than the hall actually offers. We have very many people doing early music, and for them it was not very pleasant to play in that hall until now. And also at HFK, there's a study program for electroacoustic composition. And there was so already experience in somehow performing with spatial audio and with electroacoustic support. And as Fabio already mentioned, there was already a 3D PA system, which was installed few years ago, and we just wanted to make it also usable for the classical music. And yeah, that was the main motivation actually.
Yeah. And knowing this, Caspar, maybe what are the key considerations from a technical and architectural perspective when designing the system for this space? Maybe in short words.
Yeah, well, the technical considerations are always basically the same. So we follow our system design guidelines, where we take a very primary focus on the loudspeaker density. So we want the majority of the audience area to be reached by multiple speakers, to have a diffuse sound field, or as diffuse as possible sound field at each audience area seat. So this is basically the main driver, but in this case it was difficult with the ceiling, because the ceiling was so coarse, the ceiling grid, only 4 speakers on the ceiling. So we had to help ourselves with the second ring on top, which is very high up to compensate for the ceiling, basically. These were the main challenges, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not only the technique, no? What do you think, Martin? How has the Amadeus installation changed the way students rehearse, practice, or perform in the room? Is there a change actually?
Actually, we started, so the installation was done in the end of March. So we have maybe it's 9 weeks ago or something like that. So it's totally new, and we did not have that much time to experiment. But as one example, during the tuning process, we could already hear that people change. So musicians playing change their tempo when perceiving different or various acoustic spaces. It's something you would always expect musicians to do, but now we can show that, acoustics is really influencing or interacting with the interpretation of a musician. And at least what I expect is that teachers and students will use the system to find out how different acoustics will change the performing, or how musicians should react actively to different acoustic conditions when they come to a concert hall or to a church or to a chamber music hall. Also,
May I ask, connected to that? Just this weekend, I had a group of a brass orchestra who is building a new rehearsal room. It's a folk music group in Austria, and their question was, they sort of shyly asked me, Fabio, can you do poor acoustics as well? It's like, yeah, of course. This is not the main goal, where we are usually trying to get very high quality acoustics, but can you do poor acoustics? If you insist, why not? Or what's the motivation? Simply because their performance venues are local gyms in some town in Austria with very poor acoustic responses. Their idea was, can we practice that? Did you already experience something like that at the university?
Actually, not yet. And for some musicians, as I already said, the room already was poor before. So, so for some, even for some people, the room was good. It was not bad for all situations, but at least for quite many. Yeah.
Yes, and coming to psychology and perception, it's you observed that once people knew the system was active, they started attributing unrelated sounds to it. What does it tell us about how perception and expectation shape our listening?
It's a good question. There was actually a quite funny story 2 weeks ago or so. The system was used during a concert of a violin class, and that evening was supposed to be a very first test for these students, and everyone, also the professor, was probably very sensitized on acoustics and the loudspeakers. And the day after, I got an email from the professor, and she wrote, suddenly the system played an audio signal, and like an ascending and descending triad, ding, like something like this, and we had to switch the system off. So, and this is quite bad news if you want to convince people to try out new things. And actually, to be honest, I was a bit helpless. Also, I was sure that none of our devices would play strange sounds. And then the professor talked about this incident with her students again, and some said that it really sounded like a Bluetooth audio device trying to connect with a smartphone or so, and they could localize it in the audience. And so what we actually assume now is that it was a hearing aid which tried to connect to the smartphone of its owner. But yeah, so that shows that maybe curiosity and maybe a bit of skepticism lead to sometimes to a big change of perception, which in that case, yeah.
Yeah, I think this is something we sometimes see it when people become hyper aware or even misinterpret what they are hearing. It's what would you say, or Caspar? How do you deal with this?
Yeah, I mean it's funny for me when I enter the office. So we also have installation in our office. So every day I'm basically sitting in an Amadeus installation, and sometimes this system would be turned on randomly. If maybe Fabio is giving a presentation afterwards, and then I enter the office and it's on. And first, when I started working, I didn't even notice it, but now my ears got a little sharper and I realize it. Of course, I immediately hear, okay, the system is on, but it sounds completely plausible to me. So I just buy it. And for me, it's like, okay, this room sounds now like this. This is perfect acoustics. And then a funny thing is, if I switch it off and on again, then there's this weird transition period for me or my brain. And it's like where I hear the sounds and the reflections, the distinct reflections, and I have a couple of seconds, maybe it's 10 seconds, where I need to adapt again. And I kind of feel like it's not plausible, it's not real. But then at one point it kind of blurs for me again, and it's plausible again. It's a weird effect. It takes some time to adapt, and I think it just happens automatically. But sometimes you need some time for that, and maybe in the beginning it's even longer. That's an interesting observation that I always do in the office.
Quality is a beast. It's actually one of the reasons why we recommend, especially when there's musicians present who are to be used to use the system and the room, not to switch around randomly. If you switch to another preset, then only moderate it consciously. That's what we usually recommend. Maybe one comment, because there was a question quickly. The incident, so to say, was that there was a Bluetooth speaker or a hearing aid device connecting by itself. This had nothing to do with the Amadeus system as such. So it was just connected by the users, and they were irritated. But in fact,
exactly, and during the concert, during the piece, actually, unfortunately, all people thought it could be the speakers which were mounted, and so it was neither the speakers nor the Amadeus core.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's maybe one of the main problems we have, that when people are aware there is an electronic system, they hear something always. But yes, I look at the watch. So maybe, what do you think, Martin? How does this project fit into your vision of future learning spaces? Does this broaden the creative horizon for educational projects, or do you think it's running in this way?
A big question.
Is it too early? Maybe?
Yeah, maybe it's a bit too early, but at least what we reached, in my opinion, is that we somehow brought together innovation and technology with traditionally performed music that fits actually well in our project goals. And what especially maybe for education institution is very important, that you offer the equipment that you have, that you offer it as flexible as possible to as many people as possible. And with this system, I think we reach exactly that also.
Cool. So this is actually what other music institutions could take away from this project.
Maybe hopefully, yeah. And of course, I invite everyone to come to Bremen to to listen, have a listen and have a look, of course, and especially if we have educators from Northern Germany, it's just not that far away. So
Yeah.
fine invitation.
Thank you. So thank you very much. It's really, I think it's a great project to use such a system in the university. We have other projects here in Vienna. They also use it in the Department of Tonmeisters, and in Graz. Again, on the university, they have also a music hall with such a system, but not so dedicated as you will hopefully use it in future. So what are we going to do? I think we have some questions.
We have a few questions. One by Tony. For object-oriented sound sources, it would be useful to have a lower RT. Was there no opportunity to increase the absorption of the space as a starting point?
Well, I can give an answer to this.
Sure.
We still have the curtains. Caspar, maybe you can show again a photo of the hall.
Yes.
So we have like really heavy curtains, and they and these will shorten the RT quite a lot, actually. So we are doing electroacoustic concerts with object-based sound and Weep Up and ambisonics, and it's quite often we close the curtains, and then it's even shorter.
So actually, a good question that for some applications, it might be useful to have a lower RT. Just so you're aware, the immersive sound and the acoustics can run in parallel, meaning that you can do object-oriented sound within a dry space or a cathedral-like acoustic space. Okay, the next question was more about microphone choice and placement. Caspar, maybe you can answer that. Maybe just roughly, what is the design, the general design idea for the microphones? And I think there was a question on omnidirectional microphones on the wall. Maybe you can explain that. What's the idea here?
Which is it? The one from Marek?
Yes.
Okay, if I wanted to use DPA microphones very precisely and place them every 2 to 3 meters, I understand that I should use shotgun to obtain precise room acoustic measurement in Amadeus. Should I also use shotgun microphones on the ceiling, or rather with an omnidirectional characteristics? Well, I wouldn't put shotguns on the ceiling. I would put supercardioids on the ceiling, and that's also what our usual approach is, to hang every 3 meters, hang a supercardioid mic from the ceiling as low as possible. So mostly it's not possible very far. So of course we're not going to place them 1 meter above the audience, because then they would be visible from the back portion of the audience. So probably it will be at a height of 4 to 5 meters, but we do not want to go further than 6 meters, because at this point we start to get problems with runtime. So distance obviously is a big topic, and for the shotguns and they're all supercardioid and no omnidirectional. So if we suspend mics from the ceiling, we never take omni, but for the boundary surface mics, these are actually omni characteristics, but keep in mind they are flush mounted in a half sphere, basically. So you only have half a sphere left anyways. So this is a special directionality anyway. So but we go with the DPA 4060 in this case, which is technically an omni characteristic microphone,
Creating a boundary layer microphone in that.
Yes.
In that way.
Uses an omni capsule, yeah.
Thank you. then I would like to know the range of ensembles that use the room and how large are the largest groups. Martin, can you give us an overview of who uses the room, basically?
And most frequently we have soloists and duets, but or duos. But the largest is probably a chamber choir or a chamber orchestra, and we don't get any big ensemble from that stage. Yeah, that's basically it.
I just remembered you told us a story about a violinist who entered the room, and just when he entered, he already noticed a change. Can you tell that again?
It was a student we invited for the tuning process because we, of course, had people playing for us. We needed people playing for us, and when he came in, the so-called smallest preset, like a chamber hall, was activated, and instantly when he came in, he said, "There's you've already changed something. It's not like it was normally. Well, it's not. Yeah." You could not expect that from every student, but at least this one was really, yeah. He knew the room very well, and he instantly checked or heard that something has already changed.
Yeah. Quite impressive. And then there's another question: if there are presets to compensate for the attendance in terms of how many people are actually in the space. Did you think about that actually?
Yeah. There, of course, indeed, when the attendance is like 200 people, and then the room is stacked full, then it's really not very comfortable to listen to a concert. And probably we can compensate for that by activating the acoustics, the active acoustics. And even we didn't try yet, but I could imagine that we do, for example, we do the rehearsals in the smallest preset, and then for the concert switch to the next bigger preset, to even have a compensation for the difference with and without audience.
Exactly, because in the range, in the operating range, where most of the presets are situated, we have very, very subtle differences from preset to preset. So you can maybe go one up, go one down, according to the how do you call it? Attendance. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe I can add to that. We had one other project in Andermatt, the Andermatt Concert Hall in Switzerland, where the goal was what you're asking, exactly to have one acoustics, no matter how many people are in the space. From rehearsing to a full audience, it should be one acoustics, which led up to 4 or even 6 presets, which we tuned depending on how many people are in the space. So the active acoustic system can be used in that, with that idea in mind as well. Yeah, and the 2 questions here, thanks for that. How many rooms in the world already have the Amadeus system? So by now we are on project number 50 and something. So we have roughly more than 50, while there's a few temporary festivals, etc. we had. So we are around 40 installations and 10 festivals in that area. And thanks for the question, because 25 is actually, the summer is full. We have a lot of tunings from Finland, Germany, and US coming up, first project. So by the end of 25, we will head up towards the number 60. And of course, me as a general manager, I look to the 100. And so my estimation, I do not disclose now, but we are getting there with speed, let's say. Thanks for that. And projects in Poland are in the working. Stay tuned for that.
Yes,
by the way, I will be in Poland tomorrow for the AES Europe conference. I was invited for a presentation in case our Polish crowd will be there as well.
And yes, we cooperate with AFMG and EASE. We have I should not say cooperation on the money side, but we talk to each other and we know each other, and we try always to help them when they implement new features for immersive audio. And they have a new one for immersive audio, and we were involved in this. So yes, there is a cooperation with AFMG.
Very good friends, so to say.
Very good friends, yes.
Okay, yeah. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for the questions and for staying with us. Nearly everybody stayed here. And by the way, yes, for the Polish people, we have a distribution partner with Commercial Audio, and they're based in Poland, and they have a showroom in Wrocław. By the way, thanks everybody for staying with us. Martin, especially to you, thanks so much for taking the time, for being such a cooperative partner. We're super happy to work with you and go on and find even better ways to provide even better quality for you and your room.
Yes.
And thanks to Kaspar for the insights. Thanks so much. Thanks to Torsten for the always pleasant presentations, and Chechi in the background. Thanks for that. And yeah.
If you have
Hope to
any
see you
questions
soon.
or more projects, don't hesitate to ask us. You know, we are always open for new things. So from my side, thank you again, and bye-bye.
Thanks,
Great.
everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.